I can never reach the moment now, and we cannot have a present because there's no beginning. Do you understand what I'm saying? I continuously move back because we're continuously, it's like a bad movie where you see somebody and he's doing this and he's walking, and you know what I'm saying? You're continuously going back looking for a beginning. You can't go forward to where you start. Do you see that? Here's an example that'll help you get your mind around this. You have a line of books, infinite line of books, and they're black, okay? You put a red book in between all of the infinite line of black books, okay? Now, if I say, let's take out all of the red books and put them in a pile, okay? How many books are left in the line? An infinite number. You haven't decreased the line by even one book, and yet you have a pile of books here that fills the entire universe. There's no space for anything else. You've taken out an infinite number of red books. Everything is full. And yet you still have an infinite line of black books. You haven't decreased this line by one, even though you've taken out all the red books in between the black books. Do you understand that? You cannot come to the end of an infinite regress. This is called an infinite regress. Mathematically you can, and philosophically you can. You can in your mind. I can never touch Gene because it's 5 feet between us, and now it's 2.5 feet between us, and now it's 1.75 feet between us, and now it's a foot between us. And you can infinitely divide that number so that we can never actually touch. That's an infinite regress, and yet I can touch him, right? Do you see what I'm saying? There had to be a beginning. Thermodynamics, there are laws of thermodynamics. I'll tell you it real quickly. If I have, every day during the winter, it's cold, and I have a plastic bag that I take out the garbage at the mall with, right? Take care, Mike. Sorry, can't say, buddy. Okay, I have a plastic bag every day that I fill up with garbage and I take it out. All right, now when it's cold in the winter, I take that plastic bag and I put it in my pocket before I do a couple things so that when I get around, why do I do that? Why do I put that plastic bag in my pocket? What?
You're warming.
And what does that do?
Expand.
It helps it to expand so I can get it into the garbage can because it's real tight, okay? What is happening to that bag when I put it in my pocket?
Its molecules are...
It's expanding.
But what is happening? Where is the heat coming from? It's coming from me, okay? Now, we have a room here, and we have a room here, and they're co-joined. This one is at 72 degrees, and this one is at 85 degrees. What's going to happen to those two rooms?
They'll balance.
They're going to balance out, and they're going to come out at maybe 78 degrees, whatever, okay? Third room, what's going to happen to this? It's going to balance. It is always going to seek a balance, okay? This is one of the laws of thermodynamics. These things are all going to end the same temperature, okay? It's just the way it is. That's why I put it in my pocket, is so that it will come to the same temperature. Everything is winding down. If I don't eat, I'm going to die. I need energy to keep me going. If you were to take one of those heat cameras and put it around me while I'm out working with this thing in my pocket, you're going to see heat going off of me, right? Energy is being dispelled from my body, and it's also going into that plastic. It's finding a happy medium. The laws of thermodynamics are fixed. They cannot be changed. It is going to find the happy medium. Well, one of the laws of thermodynamics says that energy in a closed system is, you got the first one right, is winding down. Energy is not eternal. There's only so much energy in the universe. Do you understand that? In other words, you eat something and then the energy is expended. Eventually it just turns inert. It no longer has any value of it at all. It becomes inert. Energy in a closed system is winding down. Okay. Do you understand that? Eventually there will be no energy left in the universe, okay, unless God does something. But suppose there's no God and you're just an atheist and you believe that this is all there is, okay? The universe we know is a closed system. It's not an eternal system. We already know that, okay? You can figure it out just by thinking about it. But here you have energy in a closed system is winding down. If, in fact, this was eternal, the universe, we would have no energy today because it would have been gone infinite time ago. Same thing as the line of books. Same thing as me trying to be born. There would be no energy. And everything would be, here's one of the principles of thermodynamics, is that eventually everything would go down to, what is it called, absolute zero, where there is no energy left at all. Everything would be absolutely motionless. Okay, do you understand? If you don't, it's okay. But what's happening here is there had to be a beginning. Philosophy, our mind can tell us that simply by thinking this through. Science can tell us that. And then what happened in the 1920s? A guy named Albert Einstein, right? He came up with the theory of general relativity. And he said that time, space, and matter form a continuum that began at one point and goes on from there. Okay, now, how do we know that's true? I'm not a smart guy, and so I don't, well, no, believe me. Well, relativity is a very complicated thing, okay? And I'm not smart when it comes to relativity. But we can tell that time, space, and matter all go together by looking at this. What is this, okay? But what is it? It's made of matter. Matter, okay? Now, time, space, and matter. What time did we start? We started at 9:30? So we got an hour. Okay. And if you want to stay later, we can. If you want to leave earlier, whatever. This here is matter. What is around it right now?
Space.
Space, okay. And what is inside of it? Space. Molecules. All that this is something that we perceive as physical. But here you have a molecule, and you've got a certain number of whatever you call them, protons and electrons circling around a neutron. The more there are and the faster they are, the more impact they make. And so all we are perceiving is the impact of those things. The more of them there are, the denser it is. But 99.999% of this is just space. That's all it is, just space. It's just these things that are hitting. And so when you see a thing of gold, what is it, Ag is gold, okay? It has a certain number of electrons and a certain number of protons. And so there's more of them, and they're impacting more, I guess. And so it gives us the perception of something heavier or denser. And you have helium, is it, or hydrogen? The one, I think hydrogen is with one molecule, okay? So there's only one in there. And so it's not impacting as much, and so it's much lighter. It doesn't have as much volume. You see that? Anyway, well, you're kind of giving me that look, but anyway, this is what's going on. But it's space inside of here. It's made of mostly space, and it's surrounded by space, okay? Finally, is this getting older?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. If this didn't exist, would time exist?
Yes.
No.
No?
I'm saying if this was everything, this is everything, there would be no time. Do you see that? There has to be time if there is matter, because the matter is now aging. But if there's time and there's no matter, then there really is no time. Nothing is being counted, right? Time, space, and matter form a continuum. They started at one time. And from that time, time moved on. And I use the word time in separate.
So you're saying all this because there's people that are saying this is a bunch of baloney.
That's right. And they've been saying it for 2,000 years. So, well, I understand, but
I believe this.
I totally understand that. But the reason why I'm doing that with this particular verse is to establish a baseline. Okay? That's all. After this, we can talk about the Bible all day long. But I fully appreciate what you're saying is that people will try to dispel it. And so you need to understand why people are saying this. The thing that happened, what happened, I'm getting to a point with this. What happened when relativity was discovered? People freaked out. There was a beginning, right? So what does this guy in the wheelchair, Dawkins, or what, Hawkins, Richard Hawkins, what does he say was the beginning of the universe now? It's called a what? Well, yeah, but what was before the Big Bang? It was called, there's a name he calls it. He calls it a singularity. Okay? It is, everything in the universe is infinitely compressed, infinitely time dilated. In other words, time, space, and matter exist, and he has to acknowledge that. But all of it was infinitely compressed so that everything in the universe was infinitely small and contained in one point. Okay? That's called a singularity. That's what Big Bang cosmology teaches. I want you to understand why, we'll get to why I'm saying these things, but they teach that this is the beginning of everything. All that we see, every universe,
They say made that little spot.
that's what we're going to get to in just a second. Every galaxy, every star, every single thing that we see was smaller than this, infinitely smaller. So small that we can't perceive it, and yet it contained everything that we now are and everything we now perceive. Okay, what is the problem with that? I've already talked about it.
It needs a creator.
It does need a creator, but why? It
Needs a start point.
needs a starting point. It doesn't matter how infinitely small it is, it's still an infinite. You cannot have an infinite regress. All they did is, in their arrogance, they say, it's infinitely time dilated, it's infinitely dense, it's infinitely whatever. But it doesn't answer the question that we just answered right here, that the first chapter of the Bible, or the first verse of the Bible does. It says, in the beginning, God. Now, what does that tell us? If, in fact, everything exists, this exists, okay? We have this here. I didn't study for this, okay? This is just off the top of my head, so I'm just letting you know that that's why I'm umming and ahhing a lot, but
That's why we're that.
yeah, anyway, if in fact this exists, this is something we would call a contingent being. Contingent means that it did not create itself, right? Do you understand that? Can something create itself? No, because if it created itself, it had to do what? It had to exist before it existed, right? Okay, the universe and everything that we see could not have created itself. This thing that was here infinitely could not have been there infinitely.
So if you ask him, Hawkins, if he says that's not what he thinks, if you say to
Well, then he's going to get into some mathematical calculation that you don't understand, which he can't prove. That's all. Here is the end of Einstein. He was laying on his deathbed. Anybody know what Einstein was doing on his deathbed? The day, yeah, besides dying, the very day that he died, he was still working on the theory of everything.
Theory of everything.
Because it scared him so badly that there was a beginning and he couldn't attain this God. He knew there was the disconnect that we know is Jesus Christ. He believed in the pantheistic universe of a guy named Benedict Spinoza. That's what he believed in. God is everything. Well, how do you justify that? Because if God is everything, then we are part of God, and we would have had to have infinitely existed, right? Now, I'm going to get into the three possibilities for creation real quickly. And I'm only going to do this with the first verse of the Bible, and after that, we're going to get in. So please just bear with me, okay? There are three possibilities. There's what's called ex Deo. That means out of God. Deus, Agnus Dei, right? Okay, Deo. Ex Deo, out of God. The second possibility, there are only three possibilities. The second possibility is ex morphine. Yeah, morphine hules, H-U-L-E-S, okay? Out of unformed, pre-existing matter. In other words, the matter was there, it was unformed, and God created it, or it shaped itself into something, okay? The third possibility is X, anybody?
Origami?
Hey, very good, X origami. X,
Could you guess that?
no. Ex nihilo, okay? What is ex nihilo? Ex out nihilo. What is nihilo? Come on, anybody take Latin? Out of nothing. Okay, those are the only three possibilities. Either it came out of God, there is a God, and it came out of God. This is what Einstein believed. But if this is true, or if the matter always existed, what is the problem with these two? We've already talked about it. Think it through. What is the problem with these two types of creation?
No beginning.
If it's out of God, that means that the matter always existed. If it's out of pre-existing unformed matter, that means the matter always existed. And you're back to an infinite regress. It is not possible. And this is what he's trying to figure out. He's trying to take his pantheistic worldview and fit it into his concept of ex deo, out of God. That's what he's trying to do.